The Speaker of the House is on a son, the Deputy Speaker will preside.
Almighty God, we give thanks to you, the creator of the universe, and humbly beseech you to direct and prosper the deliberations of the members of this House here assembled for the advancement of your glory and the trust and welfare of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Grant that peace and happiness, truth and justice may be established among us for all generations. Amen.
Announcements by the Speaker.
Honorable members, I have considered the privilege matter raised by the member for Port of Spain South on Friday, November 25th, 2022. As you are aware, this matter concerns allegations by a member of this House that in response to a Standing Order 17 application, the chair of this House made certain statements which have resulted in public odium and anger. At a first glance of all the surrounding issues and relevant learnings, I am of the view that a prima facie case of breach of privilege has been established and refer this matter to the Committee of Privileges for investigation and report. I so rule.
Bills brought from the Senate, petitions, papers.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I have the honor to lay paper number 1 on the supplemental order paper. The report on the operations of the National Insurance Board of Trinidad and Tobago and the audited financial statements for the financial year ended June 30th, 2022. To stop all you from suing me. I'd like to move that paper 1 be referred to the Public Accounts Committee.
Honorable members, the question is that paper 1 be referred to the Public Accounts Committee and papers 5 and 6 be referred to the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any against? I think the ayes have it.
Reports from committees, Prime Minister's questions, urgent questions.
Member for Shagona-Cease.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. To the Minister of Social Development and Family Services, will the Minister indicate the precise steps to be taken to bring relief to homeowners and occupiers who have suffered property loss in the aftermath of this week's horrendous floods?
Leader of the House.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, could I crave your indulgence to stand down this question until the Minister is available? Thank you.
Okay, in lieu of the Leader of the House request, I also noticed that question 2 is also to the Minister of Social Development and Family Services. So in the interim, we'll go to Member for Couva South, and National Service. So Couva South. Question number 3.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. To the Minister of Youth Development and National Service, will the Minister state if any emergency assistance is being offered by the National Entrepreneurship Development Company Limited, NETCO, to small businesses devastated by the recent floods?
Minister of Youth Development and National Service.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, this is outrageous in terms of what we are witnessing here.
My friend from Couva South.
All right.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, the National Entrepreneurship Development Company Limited.
Let's hear the answer.
The National Entrepreneurship Development Company Limited is committed to assisting all small businesses, notwithstanding the difficulties that would have been faced by small businesses as a result of the recent flooding events. We will make any announcement in relation to that at a future date.
Supplemental member for Couva South.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, after having listened to the Minister of Youth Development and National Services, it's clear that there is no plan from NETCO. Could I ask the Minister if through his ministerial responsibility, if he has so advised NETCO to go out into the flood-prone or hard-hit areas to do an assessment of small businesses which have been impacted by the recent flooding? Yes or no?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, that is not the role of NEDCO. That is not the role of NEDCO. And in the event that NEDCO does receive requests from businesses so affected, it will be given serious consideration.
Supplemental, Couva South.
Minister, your leadership at the level of the ministry, and taking into consideration that you are part of a cabinet that has witnessed widespread flooding in Trinidad.
Members. Question.
Could you give a commitment that you will undertake to do or liaise with members of Parliament whose 8 constituencies have been impacted by flooding to ensure that there is support from NETCO to assist small businesses in Trinidad and Tobago?
Minister.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, notwithstanding the flood politics of the UNC, the government
Trinidad and Tobago
the government remains committed to assisting all small businesses, and each matter will be dealt with on a case-by-case basis.
Member for Urupuch East.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker, today. The Honourable Minister of Works and Transport, will the Minister indicate exactly what emergency clearing, cleaning, desilting and dredging works will be undertaken on the major river courses in light of the recent unprecedented flooding?
Minister of Works and Transport.
Speaker, Mr. Deputy Speaker, it should be noted that during the period of major flooding activities, the silting and dredging works are challenging to undertake. At this time, areas of blockage and breaching points are being addressed. Examples of these areas being worked on include Bamboo Tree, Bamboo 2, Lapai, Woodland, and any other area where remedial work has been identified. Thank you.
Supplemental, Urupuch member.
Minister, are you in a position at this time to indicate the specific projects being targeted with the use of the now approved $100 million extra for landslip and road refurbishment projects? Would you identify the areas, for example, with landslips that you are going to use this fund that government has made available, extra funding for that purpose?
Again, your initial question clearly posed and has stated emergency cleaning, clearing, dredging, the silting works at the river courses. So again, that question, not at this time. Supplemental? Yes, Oropuch West, I recognize you.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Chair. Honourable Minister, are you aware that the work currently being done in Woodland is simply the removal of vegetation that is blocking the river courses and the water courses now, which should have been done in the dry season to prevent the flooding that occurred over the last week?
Minister?
Deputy Speaker, clearly the member, and I will actually invite the member to our conversation. The dredging work have been done. We have 2 pieces of equipment down there actually rebuilding banks. But if there are certain areas that there might be vegetation, because these vegetation grow up within a month, right? And we have a contractor on site rebuilding the breach in the Newcut Channel, and we also have the ministry's water master equipment rebuilding breaches in the area. So the Silton program is an ongoing program throughout the dry season, and at this point in time, wherever there are breaches that were identified, we are working on those breaches as we speak, and in the Woodland area, they are working on breaches. Thank you.
Again, member for Barataria, San.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. To the Minister of Works and Transport, given that citizens continue to be negatively affected by stagnant floodwaters, will the Minister inform the House what urgent steps will be taken to address this critical situation?
Minister of Works and Transport.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the Ministry of Works, along with local government representatives, have been visiting all areas where flooding took place. There are some localized areas because of the geography of the area. The water will take a lot longer time to run off. One area that we visited, which I think the member would be interested in, would be the El Socorro South area. I noticed you didn't put that into the question, but I will answer you because I know that's your concern. The Minister of Works and the chairman of the San Juan-Lavantel Regional Corporation visited the area 2 days ago. We identified some of the challenges in getting water to the pump house because we do have 2 pumps down there which are working, and the local government at this point addressing the area where we can pull that water down to the pump site. So in terms of the El Socorro South area, we have identified the reason why there was a lot of water in that area because of the toppling of the Caroni River. A lot more water went into the area. Since the Caroni River has receded to an extent, that have stopped, and we will be taking full charge of that area to bring that relief immediately. Thank you.
Minister, since you address the El Socorro South area, can you confirm to this Parliament whether or not the floodgates have reopened having regard to the Caroni River dropping in water level?
Minister.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, the floodgates open and close at times. If you have a low tide, the floodgates can open if the river level is low. When I was there, the river level was very high, but we do have people on site. Once they, and those gates, some of those gates operate in the different areas as a flap gate. So in other words, once the water on land is strong, it will actually open the gate for itself. In some areas, you have the screw gates. We have people on site. Once the water drops below the gate, those gates are opened. Thank you.
No, those were the 2 supplementals there.
No, just one. I just did one.
Oh, my apologies. So, Oropuchis.
Thank you, Minister. In light of this question on stagnant floodwaters, a lot of the water remains in the homes of persons affected. Is the ministry in a position to offer help by way of the provision, very temporary short-term provision, of water pumps and gully suckers to local government bodies or even to villages and communities themselves to help residents who have water settled under their homes and so on, inside their homes?
Minister.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, once the water recedes, the water from the homes will recede. However, the member is right. There are some homes that need washing out, they need assistance, and this is where the local government and the ODPM and they come in and do that part of it. The Ministry of Works, we are not really responsible for that level. We continue to fix breaches, re-engage the banks and so, and to make sure the major water courses are clear, but I am sure those are being addressed by the local government representatives in the area, the ODPM, the Social Development Department, because a whole of government approach. Thank you.
Member for Carney East.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. To the Minister of Works and Transport, what immediate measures are being undertaken to prevent flood waters from making the Madras Road in Cunupia impossible to vehicular traffic for the rest of the rainy season?
Minister of Works and Transport.
So, Deputy Speaker, Madras Road is historically challenged area, being a major low-lying point on the Caroni floodplain. As part of the plan for the 2023 financial year, dredging of the Caroni River mouth and watercourses will help to reduce the flooding in that area. Thank you.
Supplemental, member.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Minister, why has the Ministry of Works not considered using a retention pond in this area to hold excess water during periods of heavy flooding?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the whole conversation of retention ponds and so is a conversation that the ministry, we are addressing on the National Flood Mitigation Plan. However, if you put a retention pond in a very low-lying area, the pond itself could turn out to be a problem. The area is being looked at. Entire Trinidad and Tobago is being looked at in the National Flood Mitigation Plan, and if it is recommended that that area should get one, I am sure the consultants and the experts will put that forward to the government. Thank you.
Member for Carney East, next question.
Thank you. To the Minister of Works and Transport, what immediate measures are being undertaken to widen the bottleneck of the Cunupia River created by two retaining walls that have collapsed and narrowed the river's width from 25 feet to 3 feet?
Minister of Works and Transport.
Thank you. Thank you again, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the Ministry of Works and Transport has addressed the situation where part of the walls has been removed to allow the free flow of water. This is a temporary solution given the substantial failure. It should be noted that both sides of the river residents backfill the bank. It's in this area that we need to address. It will be addressed in the dry season. However, I can give the member the assurance that within the last 2 days, most of the wall have been removed. Thank you.
Supplemental, member.
Minister, why did it take so long for the Ministry of Works to respond, as I have been writing to you about the situation for over 2 years now?
Minister.
The member should know I have been responding to him. As a matter of fact, I did pay a visit on Saturday morning. The entire team of the ministry met the member on site Saturday morning and explained to him this is a challenge where residents in the area went and backfill and load a wall, and within a month, the entire wall moved straight into the village, into the river. The member knows that because the member have been communicated with. The member went on site with 9 engineers from the ministry last week, and this is why we explained to him that it could not be done. This is a slippage that took place within a month or so, when the river being high. The member understands the challenges of working in a river once the water is high. 2 days ago, the river receded, and the ministry immediately went in and removed the wall. Thank you.
Supplemental, last one.
Minister, as the Minister of Works, why did you not enforce the boundaries of the riverbank during this period?
Minister.
Enforcing boundaries and things like that, a major player in that is the Chaguanas the Chaguanas Borough Corporation. And I would really appreciate if the member can have a meeting, with the chairman, the mayor, and the Ministry of Works will definitely be working.
Member for Barataria San Juan. Member for Barataria San Juan. Member for... Minister, you have completed your answer?
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I am a bit baffled by this question, knowing fully well that the member went on site with 9 engineers on Saturday, understood the challenge, understood the problem, and the ministry still went out in the last 2 days as the water receded and removed the water. As a matter of fact, Mr. Deputy Chairman, I have seen the councillor from the area posting up on his social media page, thanks to the people who came in and removed this water course. This is as early as yesterday. And then I got messages from the residents in the area saying thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Minister. Again, members, we will now revert to question number 1. I call on the member for Shogunas East.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. To the Minister of Social Development and Family Services, will the Minister indicate the precise steps to be taken to bring relief to homeowners and occupiers who have suffered property loss in the aftermath of this week's horrendous floods?
Social Development and Family Services.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. The Ministry of Social Development and Family Services recognizes the negative impact of disasters such as floods and other unforeseen events on families and communities. The ministry provides disaster relief to victims whose items were destroyed beyond repair as a result of natural or man-made disasters. The ministry offers grants to persons impacted by natural disasters who are eligible for emergency food support, up to $20,000 in funding for minor house repairs, up to $15,000 for sanitary plumbing assistance. A clothing grant, which is up to $1,000 per person, is offered. A school supplies grant, which is amounts to $700 for primary school children and $1,000 for secondary school children. A grant to cover replacement of household items to a maximum of $10,000. Counseling and psychosocial support from the ministry's National Family Services Division. Additionally, the ministry advises of its critical incident online application form available for persons affected by flooding and disaster who have not yet been visited by the Disaster Management Unit of the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government. And this portal can be accessed by logging on to the ministry's website at www.social.gov.tt and completing the application forms. We also have officers on the field working with the Disaster Management Unit of the Ministry of Rural Development.
Supplemental, member.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Minister. I understand what your ministry offer. Can you state specifically for those persons who are affected, where can they go in the next 2 weeks to a month to apply for the necessary grants offered by your ministry, and how long exactly will they take to receive these particular grants? Minister.
Well, as I stated before, persons can log on to the portal that we have an arrangement with the Disaster Management Unit, also at all the local board offices, and we also have officers on the field assisting persons with applying for these grants.
Last supplemental, member.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Minister, I note your response, and I understand that at this point, officers are on the field. Can you state for us within the specific affected areas, where exactly can residents visit for those who cannot access online to get their applications done and so that it can be processed to receive the necessary grants?
Minister. Silence, please. Minister.
Residents can visit all the social welfare offices. We have 11, and they can visit any one of those offices for assistance.
Okay, honorable members, the time for urgent questions has expired. Thank you, Madam Minister.
Questions on notice. Questions for oral answer.
Leader of the House.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, there are 13 questions for oral answer. We are asking for a deferral of question number 48, And I also understand that the opposition has withdrawn questions 49 and 55, so we'll be answering all other questions. The two questions for written answer, the answer for question 44 will be circulated, and we ask for deferral for question 40. Thank you.
The question you quoted is 49 and 55.
Yes, 49 and 55 have been withdrawn, and we ask for deferral of 48.
Chief Whip, I have your confirmation there. Thank you. As mentioned by the Leader of the House, deferral for question number 48. I will now call on the member for Moruga Tableland.
Hold on to her. She's not here then. Thank you, Deputy Speaker. On behalf of the member for Moruga Tableland, question number 42 to the Minister of Housing and Urban Development.
Minister of Housing and Urban Development. Members, please, hold on. As far as the chair has been informed, is that the Minister of Housing is supposed to be with us virtually, right? Again, so Minister of Housing, are you there? Okay, thank you. Proceed, Madam Minister. Question number 42.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the answer is to question number 42 is as follows. Mr. Speaker, are you hearing me? The persons who received houses in the HDC's House for Christmas program are all citizens or permanent residents of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago who reside in various parts of the country, in various parts of the country prior to being allocated housing through their qualification for an HDC unit. Mr. Speaker, the areas from which they came are Arima, 11 persons, Aruka, 4 persons, Barataria, 1 person, Barakpur, 1 person, Karapichaima, 1 person, sorry, excuse me, Karani, 1, Shagwanas, 7, Kuva, 2, Canupia, 1, Curep, 2, Jacob Martin, 10, Erin, 1, Labre, 3, Mayaro, 1, Moruga, 2, Mount Hope, 1, Palo Seco, 1, Pinal, 4, Point Fortin, 5, Port of Spain, 17, Princestown, 9, Rio Claro, 1, excuse me, San Fernando, 33, Sangre Grande, 2, San Juan, 4, Santa Cruz, 1, Separia, 1, St. Augustine, 1, St. Joseph, 1, Trin City, 1, and Tunapuna, 2. In total, there were 132 persons. And these are the areas from which they came before they got the HDC unit in the Home for Christmas. Up to between the period August 23rd and October 25th, 2022. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Supplemental member for Point of View.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Minister, based on your response, could you identify a house for Christmas? What was the criteria used for the distribution of these houses that these individuals got?
Minister?
Yes, Mr. Deputy Speaker, it's the same criteria that is always used by the HDC. The persons would have had to apply for the house and they would have had to qualify in accordance with the HDC qualifications. And once they did qualify, they were allocated a home. Some of these persons are persons who have been awaiting qualification or allocation for several years. And in the normal course, with the HDC's qualification criteria, they qualified, and so they were allocated housing.
Supplemental, member for.
Yeah, supplemental. Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Minister, as a follow-up question, the theme that the ministry used, a house for Christmas, what was the rationale for using that theme as opposed to your answer where you said all the houses given out was nothing special, was the same criteria used?
We just thought that, shall I go ahead, Mr. Deputy Speaker?
Proceed, member.
Thank you. HGC just thought it was a good tagline because it was starting in August, in the run-up to Christmas, and we just thought it was a good tagline. There was nothing particularly different about qualification.
Question number 43.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Question number 43 to the Minister of Tourism, Culture and the Arts on behalf of the member for Moruga, Tableland.
Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. The Visitor Relations Management System was a project of the former Tourism Development Company Limited, which was not implemented prior to the dissolution of that company in fiscal 2017. Tourism Trinidad Limited, the successor to the TDC, is currently developing a system of visitor feedback through exit surveys and development of visitor databases to identify potential areas of improvement to the visitor experience to allow better management of visitor relationship and provide feedback, a feedback mechanism for the tourism sector.
Supplemental, member for Point de Pierre.
Minister, based on your response, seeing that the VRMS was not completed under the last company, could you state in your ministry what is being done? How do you capture that visitor relationship experience?
Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. We have visitor ambassadors located, for example, during the cruise season, all throughout Port of Spain, and they take feedback also at the cruise ship complex. When the cruise ship passengers are returning on board, they are provided with a survey. The survey results are compiled and information provided by the Tourism Trinidad Limited for improvement.
Question number 45, Chief Whip for Moruga, Tableland.
Again, thank you, Deputy Speaker. Question number 45 to the Minister of Finance on behalf of the member for Moruga, Tableland.
Minister of Finance.
I believe the question. Mr. Deputy Speaker, this is a surprising question. It is a matter of record that the public disclosure by a former governor of the central bank in 2015 of the names of the largest recipients of foreign exchange at that time, in contravention of Section 56 of the Central Bank Act, Chapter 7902, and Section 44 of the Exchange Control Act 7950, created a public conflagration. The fact that this was an egregious breach of banking confidentiality has been missed by many commentators recently. This is information within the bosom of the central bank, which they and other financial institutions are forbidden from disclosing under penalty of law. Disclosure of this information will destroy the confidence which clients have in the central bank and in financial institutions, that their private banking information will not be disclosed without their consent. Further, unlawful disclosure of private banking information could never be in the public interest, no matter what the circumstances may be. It would be irrational, unlawful, irresponsible, and an abuse of power for me as Minister of Finance to engage in such a breach of trust, and I have no intention of ever doing so.
Supplemental, member for Point of View.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Based on the Minister of Finance response, is the Minister of Finance telling this House that he's not going to provide a list of the 10 largest foreign exchange users of Trinidad and Tobago?
Finance, anything to add?
Mr. Deputy Speaker, that is private banking information. To disclose that would be a breach of the law. I have no intention of doing so. Others may wish to do it. I will not.
Others have done it.
Member for Point of View, question 47.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Speaker. My question number 47 to the Minister of Finance.
Finance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Part A. On September the 26th, 2022, the number of regular recipients of social grants, which includes persons in receipt of the Senior Citizens Grant, among others, was estimated at 175,000. These grant recipients are
I think it would be a good time to announce, please, all devices silent or turned off. Please, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Let me repeat. On September the 26th, 2022, the number of regular recipients of social grants, which includes persons in receipt of the Senior Citizens Grant, among others, was estimated at 175,000. These grant recipients are continuously audited by the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services, since for a number of reasons, the list of recipients changes on a monthly basis. In order to ensure that all those who are entitled to receive the transport grant do in fact receive it, the period between the end of October 2022, after the 2023 budget was approved, and the end of January 2023, was selected as a reasonable period within which the list of recipients of the transport grant could be finalized and checked for accuracy prior to disbursement. B. The target date for distribution of the transport grants is on or before the end of January 2023, as stated in the 2023 budget statement. C. The estimated 175,000 recipients of these transport grants involve those most in need, that is to say, recipients of Senior Citizens Grant, public assistance, disability assistance, and conditional cash support, also known as a food card. D. All of the targeted recipients are already the subject of a means test, which is one of the reasons why this group of recipients was selected.
Member for Point of View? Oh no, that has been 49, Point of View.
49.
Deputy Speaker.
48 has been deferred and 49.
48 is deferred, right. So question 53.
Princess Town.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, question number 53 to the Minister of Works and Transport.
Minister of Works and Transport.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the Naparima-Mayaro Road is essential for connecting several communities across South Trinidad, from Princestown to Mayaro, and whilst providing a major thoroughfare to interlink the Sir Solomon Holtroy Highway, the roadway is approximately 62.2 kilometers in length, starting from Monrepo roundabout and ending in Mayaro. Sections of this roadway from Princestown to Rio Claro are prone to landslips and slope failures due to its soil composition and general topography. Within the last fiscal year, the ministry visited via the Highways Division and the Pure Unit have undertaken works along the Naparima-Mayaro Road, such as reconstruction of cylinder culvert crossings, strengthening and paving work, landslip repairs, and road rehabilitation work. Works to undertake in this fiscal as follows. Slope stabilization at the Naparima-Mayaro Road 25-kilometer mark. This work is 75% completed. The contract was awarded to Ricky Raghunathan Group of Company. The process for award was done via competitive tendering, utilizing the Ministry Procurement Unit. 2, landslip along the Naparima-Mayaro Road under the landslip repair program, phase 2A, which have been assigned to NITCO for repairs. L29 Naparima-Mayaro Road, LP 353 located before heading east along the Naparima-Mayaro Road using the open tender process. A contract was awarded to Parasing General Contractors Limited. LP 20 Naparima-Mayaro Road, located after Fairfield Road, heading west along Naparima-Mayaro Road, next to Cool Water Restaurant. The procurement process, open tendering, is ongoing and is expected to be completed by the end of January 2023. There's another critical landslip along the Naparima-Mayaro Road, located at the 30.4 kilometer mark at Robert Village. Geotechnical investigations were initiated and completed, and the designs for the permanent slope stabilization work are being developed. Thereafter, initiation of the tendering process for construction will be undertaken. Due to the nature of the proposed work, it is envisaged that construction would be undertaken during the dry season of 2023, once funding is confirmed. Notwithstanding same, in light of the degree of deterioration, the Highways Division will undertake continued interim road restoration work along the transmission of vehicles until a permanent work are undertaken. Additionally, the Pure Unit will undertake significant road rehabilitation work along the Naparima-Mayaro Road between the 38 kilometer and the 41 kilometer mark under the program of works for this fiscal 2022-2023. Thank you.
Supplemental, Princess Town, member.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Honourable Minister, can you indicate along the Naparima-Mayaro Road whether all geotechnical work has been completed with respect to landslips identified?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. That road, as I said, is a challenge road because of the soil type and so. Before any construction will start, the geotechnical studies are done, especially when we have to do the major landslips. So there are several landslips on that road and some being formed on a daily basis. I can't tell you all have been done. What I can give you the assurance that before a landslip, before construction starts, the first thing has to be done, even before the designs are done, is the geotechnical studies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Honourable Minister, in light of the destruction of the Moonilal Road, which leads to Mayaro, and this being the only access point along the Naparima-Mayaro Road that leads to parts of Princestown, Rio Claro, Moruga, Tableland, can you confirm that this will be given priority? Because you have not given me a start date in the new year. All you have said is depending on the weather and so on, but we may end up in a situation where there's no access to this area. So are you giving a confirmation that work will begin within the new year?
Minister.
Thank you. Mr. Deputy Speaker, we do have a challenge on the Manzalina Road, and there are two access to Mayaro, one through Sandy Grande, through Beach and Rio Claro, and then through the Naparima-Mayaro Road. Work on both ends of these roads have started already. We have to ensure that these roads remain passable so that Mayaro is never disconnected from the rest of Trinidad. So the assurance is given that work would have already started and will continue on as long as we have to make sure that all of Trinidad and Tobago remains connected. Thank you.
Member for Princeton.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Honourable Minister of Works and Transport, question number 54.
Thank you again, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the St. Julian Road is one of the historical roads which evolved with time and used to be a track and is located along a ridge without any major changes to the embankment or pavement structure. Additionally, the history of this road provides evidence that the soil composition makes it prone to landslips and failure. The first 1.7 km long section of this at the junction of Sisters Roads falls under the jurisdiction of the Princestown Regional Corporation. The Victoria East District has responsibility for the remaining 7.1 kilometers of roadway from the 1.7 km mark until the intersection with the Naparima-Mayaro Road at the 8.85 km mark. It is a secondary road with an average width of 4.8 meters. To date, there are approximately 4 critical landslips along the St. Julian Road. The most critical landslip along this road was identified at the 5 km mark. Geotechnical investigations was commissioned and completed. Due to the subsequent adverse weather event and the rupture of a large existing water main, the road structure and embankment was significantly eroded. As a result, this section of the roadway was deemed unsafe for public use and was closed. There is an alternative access at either side. The designs for a proposed slope stabilization works are currently ongoing. The intent is to procure and commence construction in the dry season of 2023, once funding is available. However, there are land ownership and acquisition issues which are currently being pursued in order to undertake the construction work. Additionally, the Pure Unit will also be undertaking slope stabilization work at 2 landslips of similar magnitude located within the vicinity of the 2.1 km mark and the 6.5 km mark under the program of works for this fiscal year. NIDCO has been assigned the repairs of 2 landslips along Sisters Road under the landslip repair program. NIDCO has completed its procurement process, open tender for these 2 landslips, and the contractor, Wide Turn Transport Services Limited, has been identified to undertake the work. Works are expected to commence in March 2023. I thank you.
Supplemental, Princess Tong.
Mr. Deputy Speaker. Honourable Minister, are you aware that due to the snail pace approach that this matter has taken, I have written for the past 2 years on this matter, drawing it to your attention. I have not had the courtesy of one single response. But I wanted to draw it to your attention, Minister, to find out if you're aware that because of your lack of concern and consideration treating with this matter, it has costed 2 elderly citizens in Princestown their lives because a fire appliance could not reach in time.
Honourable member, please. Member for Princestown. And the question is, the question.
I asked the Honourable Minister if he was aware, because of this incident with respect to the road, that it costed 2 elderly citizens their lives because a fire appliance could not reach in St. Julian, despite writing him for the past 2 years and raising this matter consistently inside of the House, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Again, the question does not arise in this circumstance. Kumuto Manzelina.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Chair. To the Honourable Minister of Works and Transport, question number 56.
Transport.
Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, construction of the first phase of the Kumoto to Sandy Grande Highway commenced in January 2018. This priority phase entailed work under Package 1A and 1B of the project and includes the construction of a 5 kilometer of a 4-lane dual arterial highway from Kumoto Sand Road heading eastwards towards the Eastern Main Road. This segment is currently ongoing with Package 1A 88% and Package 1B 77% completed. Land acquisition is ongoing to facilitate the commencement of work on other phases of this project, namely the connector road from the end of Package 1B to the Eastern Main Road and the segment from the Churchill Roosevelt Highway to the Kumoto Road. The second priority for construction is a 1.7 kilometer roadway from the end of Package 1B to the Eastern Main Road. Construction of this segment is expected to commence in 2023. Work on this highway is ongoing and was only interrupted due to the COVID pandemic. Work restarted immediately with all other construction projects. Thank you.
Member for Faizabad.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. To the Minister of Health, question number 57.
Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. As at November 16, 2022, the total number of patients awaiting vitreoretinal surgery at the ophthalmology clinic of San Fernando General Hospital is 128.
Supplemental, member for Faizabad.
Thank you for your answer, Minister. Minister, in view of this, can you state what arrangements have been made to deal with this waiting list?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Of the 128, we have identified 23 for urgent attention. Those cases will be sent to the private sector, as we do, because, as you know, we don't perform VR surgeries at this time in the public sector. So those will go out, and then we'll treat with the others within the next month or so. In addition, we are seeking to recruit specialists from Cuba to work in the public health system to do these surgeries, which will alleviate the need for having to go to the private sector to get it done. Thank you very much.
Supplemental, Faizabad, member.
Thank you, Minister. So my information is that the last specialist had left the job about 3 months ago. Can you indicate what sort of time frame you expect to have a new specialist at the San Fernando Hospital?
Minister.
We are working on two fronts. I was in Cuba 2 months ago. The letter actually went out from my office to Cuba last week, requesting not only VR surgeons, but also specialist surgeons to work in the public sector. Also, we are looking at one local who has indicated his willingness to work in the public sector, and we hope that that comes to fruition in early 2023. Thank you.
Member for Faizabad, question 58.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Question number 58 to the Minister of Health.
Thank you again, Mr. The hospital is the property of Heritage Petroleum Company Limited, and as a consequence, this question should be posed to the Land Minister under whose remit the company falls.
Supplemental, Faizabad member.
Thank you for that clarification, Minister. Minister, can you indicate whether at this point in time the Ministry of Health would have any interest at all in retaining this facility for providing services to the public?
Minister of Health.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, we have been in talks for that facility, and when a concrete decision has been made, it will be announced.
Member for Caroni East.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Question number 60 to the Minister of Works and Transport.
Minister of Works and Transport.
Thanks you again, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the Ministry via the Drainage Division is at present working on acquiring the necessary statutory approvals for the project of dredging the mouth of the Caroni River during this fiscal year. The dredged area will stretch from the Uriah Butler Highway to the mouth of the river at the Gulf of Paria. Other proposed structural work along the Caroni River embankment are scheduled to be undertaken in this fiscal year under the Strategic Drainage Plan. These work are expected to bring relief to the area of St. Helena, El Carmen, Kelly Village, and environs. Thank you.
Member.
Sir, have any sluice gates been assessed and perhaps removed, repaired, or replaced in the minor water courses by the Ministry of Works recently in these areas?
Minister of Works, Transport.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, the Ministry of Works, we have a program for upgrade of gates and pumps throughout Trinidad and Tobago, and a significant amount of work was done on the Caroni area. That is why in this area, for the first time with the magnitude of flooding that we got, the airport didn't have to shut off the runway because of the new gates that were installed in that area. So yes, there work ongoing. All this is projects coming out of our national flood drainage plan, and gates and pumps are upgraded along the entire Caroni area with a lot of work planned for this fiscal year. Thank you.
Supplemental, member.
Minister, has the Ministry of Works considered a network of retention ponds to contain excess water in these areas?
Minister of Works and Transport.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I think I just answered a question similar to that. We are working on and working with the National Transport Drainage Plan. A part of that plan is looking at the entire country. And yes, ponds are something that is on the table. At this point in time, no area have been identified. But once the experts put forward that there are certain areas that we can put these, it's a holistic plan to minimize flooding in Trinidad and Tobago going forward, and the plan is ongoing. And if there are areas for that, it definitely will be considered. Thank you.
Supplemental, member for Caroni East.
Thank you. Minister, would you enlighten us of the names of the minor water courses that have been desilted and dredged by the Ministry of Works recently in these areas?
Minister of Works and Transport.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I would love to facilitate that, but I don't think the time allotted will be enough. So if the member wants, if he poses a question in writing, I could give him it will take him a couple days to review it. I can't give you that right now as I'm here. Thank you.
Supplemental. Last one.
Minister, are you aware that all of these preventative measures that I have just outlined have been done in Greenville in the aftermath of the 2018 floods, and why have they not been done in these areas of St. Helena, El Carmen, Kelly Village, and Warrenville?
Member, I will not allow the question at this time.
Request for leave to move the adjournment of the House on definite matters of urgent public importance.
Member for Barataria, San Juan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I request your leave to raise the following matter to move the adjournment of the House on a definite matter of urgent public importance. The urgent need for government to take immediate action to provide essential relief and assistance to communities which have been severely affected by catastrophic flooding in the past week, which has caused significant destruction of property, displaced the safe living conditions, and hindered the daily lives of tens of thousands of citizens. The matter is definite because there has been a catastrophic flooding which is plaguing several communities throughout Trinidad at the present time. The matter is urgent because thousands of citizens have been and are being evacuated and cannot return home as water levels are reported to be extremely high in some areas, while many have been placed in life-threatening situations at their homes. There has been extreme destruction to property such as vehicles, home appliances, food supplies, and personal items, which have been all submerged by floodwaters. There are many areas where there are no supply of proper drinking water and water for cleaning, which pose further threats to health, given the possible spread of diseases. The matter is of public importance, as failure by the state to provide adequate relief, compensation, medical help, as well as to mobilize equipment and manpower to offer effective assistance to these communities can be detrimental to thousands of citizens. The floodwaters remain at high levels and are stagnated, causing children and the elderly to become sick. I so move, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Honorable members, I have considered the motion of the member for Barataria San Juan, and I am satisfied that this matter qualifies to be raised as a definite matter of urgent public importance. This matter also requires the leave of the House. Is the House prepared to grant leave? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? I think the ayes have it. Honorable members, leave have been granted in accordance with Standing Order 17.4. The debate on this motion will stand over until 6 p.m. or as time transpires during the course of this evening's sitting.
Statements by ministers.
Leader of the House.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I seek your leave under Standing Order 122 to suspend Standing Order 24.3 to allow the Attorney General to speak until the conclusion of his statement.
Leave is granted. Attorney General, and yes. 1 second. Leader of the House.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I beg to move that Standing Order 24.3 be suspended to allow the Attorney General to speak until the conclusion of his statement.
Honourable members, the question is that Standing Order 24.3 be suspended to allow the Attorney General to speak until the conclusion of his statement. All in favour say aye. Aye. Any against? No. I think the ayes have it. Please, I have ruled. Or put you west. I'm on my legs. Again, please, Minister of Finance. Proceed, Attorney General.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I make this statement with the approval of the Cabinet and by your leave. As Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, I consider it my duty to account to this Honourable House from time to time in respect of the government's management of its litigation and savings effected to the taxpayers of this Republic. The Estate Management and Business Development Company Limited, EMBD, is a limited liability company currently operated by a board of directors appointed by Cabinet through the corporation sole. EMBD was originally formed in August 2022 as part of the divestment of Caroni 1975 Limited, with its line ministry being the Ministry of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries. The original mandate of EMBD was to be responsible as manager for the development and management of the former Caroni 1975 Limited lands. This government, Mr. Deputy Speaker, took office in September 2015 and inherited a multiplicity of claims and resulting litigation for monies owed. Since November 2015, in litigation matters involving contractors' claims, the sole focus of EMBD has been to safeguard taxpayers' monies through managing EMBD's litigation portfolio carefully. The strategy to manage that litigation portfolio has comprised the engagement of experienced attorneys, quantity surveyors, and engineering experts, conscientiously to pursue or defend EMBD's litigation matters and, where prudent, to settle reasonable claims. This strategy is ongoing, but thus far has been significantly successful. Mr. Deputy Speaker, forming part of this statement, which I make to this Honourable House today, is a table which shows at November 30th, 2022, a total of some 29 concluded matters involving claims before the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and the Industrial Court, in which significant sums of money have been claimed from the EMBD for the account of the taxpayer, that is to say, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, which claims have been resolved at 30th of November 2022, either by way of negotiated settlement, court judgment, or withdrawals of claims. This table demonstrates significant savings accomplished by EMBD through its prudent management and the rigorous support of its professional teams. It is to be noted that payment certificates had already been issued to contractors for most of these claims when the government changed in 2015, with some 50% of those contracts having been awarded only in the very last year of the office of that government, 2014 to 2015. In summary, there is a cumulative value of all claims in EMBD's litigation portfolio, Mr. Deputy Speaker, from fiscal 2016 to fiscal 2022, amounting to approximately $4.2 billion, inclusive of interest and costs. Of that sum, the table shows that as at November 30th, 2022, by negotiated settlement on prudent advice from its teams of experienced attorneys and its other experts, court judgments or withdrawals by claimant contractors, EMBD has reduced claims originally totaling some $417 million in 29 legal matters, down to a total settlement sum of $47 million, whittled down to an estimated 11% of the original value of the claims. EMBD was therefore able to achieve overall savings to the taxpayers of some $369 million. In other words, if these matters had not been defended or diligently managed, those claims of some $417 million would have been entered as judgments against the EMBD. Mr. Deputy Speaker, in the table which I have with me and which is part of this statement, I will highlight only a few of the 29 matters which are shown on that table. In the case of Felicity 1 Residential site. 5 awards, the last of 2 were dated the 7th of January 2014 and the 19th of December 2014, amounted to a claim of $8,687,060. That claim was withdrawn on October the 18th, 2018, by the claimant in that matter, resulting in a complete 100% saving to the taxpayer of that $8 million sum. Secondly, by way of highlight, in the case of Lal Bihari Trace and Reform Residential Site, which awards were made in July of 2014, the claim amounted to $971,613. That claim has been settled, with the claimants accepting half of that sum, $432,000. The third instance, residential site at Factory Road number 3, of a claim which was made on the 4th of February 2015 for $1,452,761. On March the 3rd, the contractor's claim was dismissed, with costs being awarded to EMBD of $125,000. Fourthly, in the case of Golconda, award and contract dated the 27th of May 2014, a claim of $860,753.21. On the 12th of May 2021, consent orders were entered by which the claimants agreed to withdraw their claim and agreed to pay EMBD $100,000 in costs. And lastly, of the 29 matters which I wish to highlight, the case of rehabilitation of roads for Picton 1 project at Boodoo Trace number 3, award and contract, 7th of July 2014, a claim amounting to $2,438,945. On the 7th of June 2022, $2,200,000 was agreed in full and final settlement, inclusive of costs, for a matter which originally totaled $5,840,901, with a net saving to the taxpayer of $3,640,901.30. The total number of claims represented by these 29 matters, Mr. Deputy Speaker, amounted to $416,963,378.66, of which $369,345.921.59 was saved to the taxpayer, given that the settlement accepted only $47,617,000 of that $416 million total. Mr. Deputy Speaker, 2 further more recent matters deserve to be recorded for posterity in this Honorable House. On May the 6th, 2016, Namalco filed a claim against the EMBD, that is to say Namalco Construction Services Limited, High Court Action CV 2016-015-229, for sums in excess of $1.2 billion in respect of 6 projects. Of these, 2 are part of the suite of Carney Road infrastructure, Mahaika and Brickfield Roads, and 4 residential sites being developed by Carney VSEP workers, Cedar Hill A, Roop Singh Road, Pittimon 2 and 2A, and Picton. It was in the context of roadworks on these minor roads and the preparation of 4 residential sites that contractors were in line to receive billions of dollars of outstanding payments. Namalco's claim against EMBD in respect of these 4 projects was for the sum of $1.1988765 billion, inclusive of interest, to May 6, 2016. After a trial lasting the entire month of November 2019, Mr. Justice Ricky Rahim delivered his judgment on the 26th of April, 2022, and I quote from 2 paragraphs of that judgment. Paragraph 8, he described EMBD. It is a publicly accountable body whose duty it was to ensure that only sums certified as due or which could be established as due by measurement of work actually done would be paid. EMBD put together a robust defense. The other significant finding of the judge, Mr. Justice Ricky Rahim of the High Court, which emerges from that judgment, claiming $1.2 billion, and in which EMBD has succeeded in so far an award of only $427 million, with EMBD having appealed. The other notable paragraph out of that judgment is paragraph 334 of the judgment, in which the judge set aside 2 supplementary agreements on the ground that they'd been entered into as a result of a conspiracy and were therefore not valid. Quote, the court finds that the combination of actions on the part of NAMALCO, EMBD's Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Sibalak Singh, and BBFL engineer, Mr. William Agard, Mr. William Aguilar, Mr. William Aguilar's name being mentioned 16 times in that judgment, were committed with only one intention. Put simply, says Mr. Justice Rahim, to extract more money from the state entity EMBD than NAMALCO would have been entitled to, both as a matter of damages on the original award for the stoppage, if allowable, and for the future works on the said 2 projects. This judgment has resulted in a saving to EMBD and by extension to the taxpayer of $314,406,886. NAMALCO has appealed, and we expect that the appeal will be successful on the cross-appeal by EMBD on what is an important issue, and that is the ability to of the court to go behind interim certificates that are signed off by engineers that are not in the best interest of the companies for which they are working. Finally, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I bring to the attention of this Honorable House the most recent judgment of the High Court, dated the 27th of July, 2022. High Court Action 2019, that is the year 2019, number 02146, Mainway Industrial Installation Limited against EMBD. In that claim, Madam Justice Joan Charles has dismissed an application by the claimant to extend the time for service of its statement of case to pursue the case for a significant sum of money amounting to $170,780,693.10. And that claim was appealed, and on the 7th of November, the appellant withdrew by notice of discontinuance its appeal against that claim, consolidating and finalizing the saving to the taxpayer of $170 million. Mr. Deputy Speaker, with your leave, I beg to say thank you.
I recognize the member for Urupuchis.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, thank you very much. Pursuant to Standing Order 24.4, I ask the Attorney General, Mr. Attorney General, are you in a position now to confirm that the Estate Management Development Company Limited, in collaboration with the Ministry of Finance, have indeed expended in excess of $113 million TT on legal and professional fees involving litigation with only 4 major contractors?
Attorney General.
Honourable Member, I first of all don't accept your premise that the EMBD
asks and the Attorney General is answering. Proceed, Attorney General.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Honourable Member, I first of all do not accept your premise that the EMBD is acting in collaboration with the Minister of Finance or the Ministry of Finance. I secondly answer the question to say that to the extent that you have asked a question with respect to specific figures, I will make inquiry and I will provide that answer. But I would say this by way of further answer in relation to the 29 claims which the EMBD has so far. If I may, Mr. Honourable Member, if I may answer your question. Thank you.
No, members, please. Attorney General, proceed. Oropouche East, I need no assistant.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. May I say that the amount that has been saved to taxpayers so far by EMBD's management of its claims is $369,345,921. And there is the more recent judgment of Mr. Justice Rahim in relation to Namalco, which was a claim of $1.2 billion, in which a sum of $436,000 million has been awarded, with a saving of a substantial 50% of that and more. Thank you very much.
Proceed.
Personal explanations, introduction of bills. On the supplemental order paper, the Finance Number 2 Bill 2022 in the name of the Minister of Finance. Motions relating to the business or...
Excuse me. Again, members on both sides, again, you all are free to exit the chamber to have your necessary discourse, but you cannot afford to disturb the decorum of this sitting, please. So, proceed, clerk.
Motions relating to the business or sittings of the House and moved by a minister. Public business, government business, motions.
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I beg to move the following motion standing in my name. Whereas Section 123, subsection 1, subsection A of the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago provides that the Police Service Commission shall have the power to appoint persons to hold or act in the office of Commissioner and Deputy Commissioner of Police. And whereas Section 123, subsection 3 of the Constitution provides that the Police Service Commission shall submit to the President a list of the names of the persons nominated for appointment to the office of Commissioner or Deputy Commissioner of Police. And whereas Section 123, subsection 4 of the Constitution provides that the President shall issue a notification in respect of each person nominated under subsection 3, and the notification shall be subject to affirmative resolution of the House of Representatives. And whereas the Police Service Commission has submitted to the President the name Mr. Ramnarayan Samaru, Assistant Commissioner of Police, as a person nominated to act in the office of Deputy Commissioner of Police. And whereas the President has on the 24th day of June 2022 issued a notification in respect of the nomination. And whereas it is expedient to approve the notification, be it resolved that the notification of the President of the nomination by the Police Service Commission of Mr. Ramnarayan Samaru to act in the office of Deputy Commissioner of Police be approved. Mr. Deputy Speaker, this matter is one that has a slight history in that the notification came to us. I think I answered the question here sometime before. The notification came to the House in the manner of which I just described and required that the House treat with it to affect the nomination of this officer. However, the notification came just before the House was due to go on recess. And the House recessed, and the period for which the nomination was to have taken place expired before the House came back out and had the opportunity to treat with it. And as a result of that, we took a little time to get some proper advice as to whether a new nomination was required or whether the subsisting one was still valid. We are here today acting on that nomination of 24th June 2022 and will proceed with dispatch. It falls to me, Mr. Deputy Speaker, not to provide any personal knowledge and or endorsement of this officer, but to accept the work of the
Is it the same thing with other members?
Are you hearing me now? I was saying, Mr. Is that better? Is that any better? Oh, okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. I was saying that the qualification of this officer, which I will present now, is not from my personal knowledge or my personal endorsement, but trusting the work of the Police Service Commission, who would have done the screening and the examination of the suitability of this officer and would have offered him to the Parliament for consideration. I proceed to indicate, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that Officer Ramnarayan Samaru has a fairly long qualification list in terms of academic training, and I may mention a few of his accomplishments dating back to 1998, where he obtained passes in A-levels in law. 2005, from the University of London, he obtained a Bachelor's of Law. In 2012, he obtained from the Cipriani College of Labor and Cooperative Studies an associate degree in Human Resources Management. In 2017, he obtained a certificate of completion for Bulletproof Manager Program. In 2017, he also obtained from the Australian Institute of Business a Master's in Business Administration, Human Resource Management. In 2019, from the National Police College of Jamaica, he obtained a certificate of completion of the Strategic Command course. And he had some significant postings in the police service. He was appointed to act as Assistant Commissioner of Police in 2021 and posted to the office of the Assistant Commissioner Northeast in charge of the Division of Northeastern, Northern, and North Central. He was promoted to Senior Superintendent in 2020 after he was transferred to the Professional Standards Bureau. He came from the Professional Standards Bureau in 2017. Officer Samaru is also computer literate. He was a court prosecutor. He has some training in leadership, project management, time management, mentoring, coaching, and strategic management. His personal interest is being able to lead a team to success through increased effort, motivation, performance, and productivity. With respect to his ranks in the police service, in 1986, he enlisted in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. He was transferred to the Port of Spain Division. He served in Belmont in 1987. He was exposed to all areas of policing. He transferred to administration in December 1989. He experienced the attempted coup in 1990, was promoted to the rank of corporal in 1997, promoted to the rank of sergeant in 2005, promoted to the rank of inspector in May 2011, promoted to assistant superintendent in December 2014, and as I said, his most recent promotion in 2020 to the rank of senior superintendent. Mr. Deputy Speaker, colleague, this is an officer who has an extensive academic record, extensive policing in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. I know of no reason why I should second-guess the Police Service Commission. And on that basis, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I beg to move.
One second, member. Just 1 second. Honorable members, I will now propose the question for debate. Be it resolved that the notification of the President of the nomination by the Police Service Commission of Mr. Ramnarine Samaru to act in the office of Deputy Commissioner of Police be approved. I recognize the member for Naparima.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, we are here today to discuss all aspects of the nomination of Mr. Ramnarine Samaru to act in the office of Deputy Commissioner of Police. Not to be nominated to the substantive post, mind you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, but merely to act in the position. Mr. Deputy Speaker, this speaks to a slothfulness on the part of the government led by the Honorable Prime Minister. Mr. Deputy Speaker, Mr. Ramnarine Samaru was nominated on June 24th, 2022, the same day the House sat to debate a private motion on the surge in crime. The first sitting of the House after Mr. Samaru was nominated was Tuesday, 5th July. And the question arises, could we not have considered the nomination then? We are dealing with crime. We are dealing with the most significant appointments at the senior level. And what we have is sloth, laziness, and incompetence. Since Mr. Samaru's nomination, there have been 11 sittings of the House. Today's sitting is the 12th. Why the delay? Why this government does not deal with the important issues before us in a timely manner? Mr. Deputy Speaker, there's another issue. There's another issue. The notification was sent by the Police Service Commission to the House on the 24th or on the 23rd of June. I have the letter here. It was sent, from the Police Service Commission to Her Excellency Paula May Weeks on the 23rd. The very next day, the Office of the President forwarded the letter 24th June 2022, the next day. And what we have, and in that letter, it said, and I quote, according the nomination of Mr. Ramnarayan Samaru for the purpose of making an acting appointment as Deputy Commissioner of Police is as a result of the following: in the absence of Mr. Williams while on vacation leave, and thereafter, let me repeat, and thereafter in the vacancy consequent on the acting appointment of the substantive incumbent of the office of Deputy Commissioner of Police. So this could have been a routine matter that could have been dealt with months ago. And since that notification, we have had a parliamentary sitting on Tuesday, 5th July. We discussed the bail amendment bill. Friday, 9th September, procedural motion to save bills. Monday the 12th, ceremonial opening. Monday 26th, budget presentation. Friday 30th September. Saturday 1st October. Monday 3rd October, budget debate. Tuesday 4th October. Friday 4th November. Friday 11th November. Friday 25th November. So we have had so many sittings that if this was accorded the priority that it ought to have been given by any self-respecting government, this matter should have been dealt with. Mr. Deputy Speaker, may I say from the onset that we on this side support the nomination of ACP Ramnarayan Samaru to act in the position of DCOP, Deputy Commissioner of Police, by virtue of his qualifications, his experience, track record, performance at increasingly higher levels among several departments and administrative divisions within the TTPS, his community work specifically within the Irie Village area and more generally throughout Trinidad and Tobago. And lastly, his spirituality, as evinced by the fact that on most Sundays he attends a community church in the Irie Village in Naparima constituency. These attributes were obtained not from the skeletal CV, and I'll speak to that later in this presentation, provided to MPs, but based on intensive research gathered through interviews with random police officers, also from classmates, villagers, and others. I congratulate him on his nomination and subsequent appointment to act in this most important post, pending the outcome of today's debate. And I hope that my praise for him will not be a kiss of death, as I've been warned by some of my colleagues, but good virtue.
Retract that for me, please. Retract that.
I retract it. I reiterate that we on this side recognize the importance of filling these positions that determine our safety and security. Nothing I say today must detract from the fact that we believe that senior officials of the TTPS are for the most part hardworking officers left to operate in systems that are archaic, antediluvian, third worldish, bureaucratic, and more so designed to frustrate even the most dedicated public servants. No wonder, with 555 murders to date, we are currently experiencing the worst year of murders in our history.
No, again, member, I have given you a certain amount of leeway, right? I think we dealt with crime at our last sitting. Today's sitting, we are dealing with the appointment of Mr. Ramnarayan. So I want us to stick close to his profile and his resume and that necessary information. Please.
Guided. While we support this nomination, we are left to wonder whether for all his attributes, and this deals with his nomination, for all his attributes and passion for making a positive impact on crime, his efforts and that of other appointees, and I'm dealing with appointments, Mr. Deputy Speaker, his appointment, his efforts and that of other appointees to senior positions within the TTPS will come to naught given the monumental failures and leadership shortcomings which bedevil the police service. If I were given freedom, I would have said yesterday that the country breathed a sigh of relief but it is clear that the Prime Minister has faith in his beloved cabinet minister, who has performed well and in whom he is well pleased.
Again, remember, let's stick to the text. I would like us to stick to the text.
I will stick to the text. Factors that will affect the performance of the DCOP Samaru. That is sticking to his appointment. A convoluted appointment process that wastes parliamentary time. We should today be addressing the fundamental issue of making short-term acting appointments in the TTPS a routine matter for the Police Service Commission. That is what we should be discussing today. This acting appointment should be made swiftly, routinely, and in the normal course, and ought not to be a matter for our legislative body. Our Prime Minister is on record as saying that his government intends to bring an amendment so that short-term acting appointments in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service will be finalized by the Police Service Commission and not the Parliament. He said that the last time we debated this matter. So why are we here today not discussing this amendment, which would have made this debate and similar parliamentary sessions unnecessary? It would have been a routine matter. Where is the prioritization that informs efficiency and good management? Mr. Deputy Speaker, Newsday, November 23rd, 2022. The Police Service Social and Welfare Association President, Acting ASP Gideon Dixon, correctly described the selection process of which we are discussing today, which we are witnessing today, as, quote, cumbersome, bureaucratic, and without merit, end of quote. He questioned, quote, what is the mischief that the authorities are seeking to dilute by the enormity of political interference, even just to appoint an officer to act as commissioner or deputy commissioner? So here we are today, as usual, majoring in minors, dealing with the symptoms of our problem and not the fundamental cause of our predicament. I call on the Prime Minister to stop wasting Parliament's time. Demonstrate true leadership by addressing the fundamental issues surrounding our cumbersome approach to making acting appointments in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. Bring the legislation and correct this egregious anomaly. Discuss it with us in good faith. Let us come up with better ideas that will improve the performance of the TTPS. Our political leader says it repeatedly, and I will say it again. Bring good legislation to Parliament and you will get our support. This is the only way our country can move forward. The second concern I have with this appointment is that the entire appointment process is convoluted and it needs reform. Mr. Deputy Speaker, we all recall the PNM's infamous, fruitless, hurriedly put together 10-point crime plan. And I'll refer to the first item. The first item said that they would, the first point in the 10-point plan, to immediately abolish the existing convoluted rules.
Now, remember, I've given you some leeway. This is the third time, all right? Hold on, this is the third time. I want you to stick to what is the resolve in this particular motion, okay? We have an individual that is recommended, and I want you to stay close to the text, which is his resume, his profile. We are not going down the road of what legislation, what is to come, and what has gone, right? So this is the third time. Proceed.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, we have a situation where we are dealing with the appointment of a DCOP, and I am talking specifically of what the context in which he will be operating. We could appoint and fail, because that is it seems to be the reality in Trinidad. We have to analyze critically what is he going into, what is he going to meet, Could he perform, and are his qualifications suitable for that? Mr. Deputy Speaker, we have Mr. Samaru, good as he is, will be going into a situation where all senior appointments in the police service are acting appointments. And you could say that that is not important. You could tell any SA child that that is not important. He is going into a situation where all the COP and DCOPs are acting. We have Mr. McDonald Jacob acting seemingly indefinitely as Commissioner of Police. We have Mrs. Erla Harewood Christopher acting as DCOP. We will soon have Mr. Ramnarayan Samaru and Kurt Simon acting DCOPs. This means that every single position which falls under the remit of the PSC is occupied by persons acting in their position. And nobody could tell me that that is not important to be discussed in this Parliament today. I wish to make this statement today because we are relying on information that came from the PSC via the President to us, that the PSC is letting us down. They are responsible for only 4 positions in the TTPS, only 4. And not one of these is filled substantively. And then I'm told I can't mention that. I will, and if I don't, I'll do it outside.
Remember, the last statement you make, kindly retract it.
I retract
because again, right, you know what you are doing. You know what you are saying and what you are implying. Retract that last statement, please.
I retract it absolutely, totally, and unreservedly, Mr. Deputy Speaker. The problem with us here today is that this process will be repeated in a matter of months. We will again be called to make further acting appointments soon. This is because 2 of the 4 persons acting in the Commissioner of Police and Deputy Commissioner of Police position will retire shortly. Will they be given substantive positions before they retire? Those are critical issues. Will they be able to make a meaningful impact in the short time they hold those substantive positions? And how fair is this to them and for morale in the TTPS generally, to be acting for months and then positions are given to others? Acting Commissioner McDonald Jacob will reach 61 next year. 61 next year. This is according to Newsday, April 11, 2021. Ms. Erla Harewood Christopher will reach 60 in May next year, having been born on the 15th May 1963. These are relevant, critical issues. Mr. Samaru will be 58 next year, being born on the 9th of January 65. Mr. Kurt Simon will be 56 next year, being born on the 8th of October 1967. Only the last 2 appointees will have time to make a measurable impact in their substantive positions. And this begs the question of succession planning. We could come here and debate a list. Look the list, go with the list, ignoring that there's a succession planning component that makes the list relevant in a future debate. This begs the question of succession planning by the Police Service Commission. After all, retirement ages are known. I know them, and so surely must be the Police Service Commission. And I say all these things because I have an interest in reducing crime in this country. The Police Service Commission does not have to wait until someone retires to initiate and complete the process of making appointments. The Police Service Commission should by now have a list of appointees and their successors. So we're discussing this appointment. They should have a list who will follow and who will follow afterwards. This is what occurred in the colonial era. You had succession planning. Somebody at a level of an ACP now should be gearing up for that position and putting himself and giving the track record of performance, and we will all be the beneficiaries of that. What we need is a seamless process where ideally there should be a 6-month handover period when retirees and proposed successors will work together to ensure continuity, efficiency, and a seamless transition. I must make the point, and this speaks directly to some of the interventions. We have a question. We are a co-equal branch of government. We are equal to the executive and the judiciary. And we cannot be told that here is a list, look at the list and rubber stamp. That is disrespecting a co-equal branch of government. You have to look in the US Senate to see the actual kind of questions that a co-equal branch gives to every appointment, including the appointment of the US ambassador to Trinidad and every judicial appointment and every senior position within the executive of the United States. We as a co-equal branch are repeatedly told, come here, read the thing, rubber stamp and only ask questions. He went to school here, he transferred there. He went to this place, he do. That is not, I repeat, not adequate for a self-respecting parliament. Hear the disrespect. We are given notice of the nominations and provided with a skeletal CV of the person. We are not provided with a track record. We have to deduce their vision for the job. We have no measurable performance indicators. It is as if all they expect us to do is rubber stamp the nominations forwarded by the PSC, Police Service Commission, to the President.
Member, again, right? The Police Service Commission, but it's coming via a certain channel, and you are creating some implications. So move on to your next point. Totally move on to your next point.
The job, I would have liked to know, Mr. Deputy Speaker, what is the vision of this gentleman? I had to get it in other ways. As I repeat, we must not have a process which appears to appoint persons who has the imprimatur and the agreement of the executive. These appointments come at a time when many of us have lost confidence in the ability to deal with crime. So how has the process been simplified? How has it been made free of political interference? In Canada, it is automatic.
Standing Order 48.1 and 48.6.
Okay, again, move on, member, move on. Because your same point, just stating differently.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, our concerns notwithstanding, we support, given all that is before us, and all the interference from that side, we support the nomination of Mr. Ramnarayan Samaru to act in the position of DCOP. We have done extensive research. And note the following. He has served in many branches of the TTPS and therefore has an informed understanding of the many functions of that institution. He has been actively involved in the police youth clubs, specifically the Ire Village Police Youth Club. And this suggests to us a keen interest not only in crime suppression, but more so on the areas we have stressed of crime prevention and crime rehabilitation. I think officers like him will bring a realignment of the police service away from its emphasis on crime, for crime suppression to crime rehabilitation and crime prevention. Academically, he is as good as any police officer in any part of the world, and in my view, better than many. I've reviewed the transcripts of police officers in the United States, Canada, Australia. He could stand heads and shoulders above many. He has an LLB and an associate degree in human resources from the Cipriani Labor College and Cooperative Studies. In an effort to further his studies, he pursued his master's in business administration, specializing in human resource management. In 2019, as the Prime Minister said, he was selected for a training seminar in Jamaica where he completed a course in strategic management for executives. I am sure that he knows about setting SMART goals, something I've repeatedly been talking about in this parliament. Specific, measurable, relevant, achievable, and timely. So that I would expect to hear that police response time will be 10 minutes. I will expect, given what I see in his CV, that we will be getting getting data and targets such as the murder rate will be decreased by 10% annually. I expect we will be getting information from that kind of thinking that speaks to the fact that the recidivism rate in the prison services will be reduced by 15% in a 3-year period. Those are the kinds of expectations we on this side have for such a gentleman in a police service. I heard him, I met him once for less than 4 minutes. I heard him address the gathering at this year's Diwali function held at the Princestown Police Station, and I was very much impressed with his articulation of the challenges facing the country in general and the TTPS in particular. He seemed to be the kind of officer who will stand up for what is right. If he gets an instruction, for example, to falsely arrest someone, he seems to be that kind of police officer that we need. At the same time, he will not let friendships, politics, this is the impression I got, that he would not let friendship, politics, or career advancement ambitions get in the way of his ethics, his professionalism, and spirituality. And you could see that, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I couldn't get that from the CV. And that speaks to the inadequacy of the CV as a form of evaluating an individual. I am normally skeptical of the police, but at that function, I was impressed with the officers in the Southern Division. And I could only remark as a citizen, as a senior citizen in the country, I could only give these fellows the tools and they will get the job done. More so, based on random discussions with a cross-section of officers of the TTPS, I gather that he has the respect of the rank-and-file officers in the service, having, among other things, risen through the ranks, starting from his appointment as a constable in 1986. In conclusion, Sir Deputy Speaker, a review of the performance of the TTPS tells us that there are many hard-working officers in that institution, ill-served by agencies that continue to fail them. We can make all the appointments we wish, but putting good officers to operate in antediluvian systems with poor policy framework will make them inefficient. And the question I ask, how can they, and in closing, how can they perform with a shamelessly slothful judicial system? They can take hundreds of guns off the streets, but lack of scanners at our ports will immediately be replaced.
Member.
Yes.
Right? You have been going fine just now. So again, please, that last statement there, let's get away from that.
So you want me to withdraw the statement?
Yeah, let's move away.
You want me to withdraw that?
Yes, let's move away from that.
You know clearly,
you know clearly what you know clearly what I'm speaking about.
All I could say?
We don't need the extra statement. We don't need it. Let's withdraw. Thank you.
I wish to say that in Canada, acting appointments are routine, predictable, transparent, and seamlessly achieved. In the UK, it is routine with the length of the acting appointments being specified. Even in Barbados, I have read their gazette about acting appointments, and we're dealing with acting appointments now, of senior officers in their police service which specify the time frames of the acting appointment. So why can't we not be told that Mr. Samaru will act in the office of Deputy Commissioner of Police for a period of 6 months, which actually in the UK, it is said that acting appointment should not exceed 6 months unless they get specified approvals. So everywhere else you look, you see sense, you see order, you see a hierarchical organization that is seamlessly operating. One person leaves, another person acts. And I know that my senior is going to go on holiday next year, so I begin preparing for that acting appointment. In Trinidad, it seems as if we just come to Parliament and we just throw it. And all these officers today will be dealing with two. They do not know whether they will be approved or not. Today, into an acting position, in a senior position. This should be routine. This is not for Parliament. And I would like to just, in my last line, beg this government to operate with the police service as if we are operating on global standards. In my last statement, I read the Barbados Police. We read of the vision of the Royal Barbados Police Service. And I think we need to listen to it. Enhance law enforcement and public safety deliverables by integration of modern technology through a competent workforce, leading in international police standards and enabling efficiency, accountability, and professional excellence. My last statement, the Dear Forensic Center aspires to be the best in the Caribbean. Let us put that in our pipe and smoke it. When we ask what is the accreditation, we're told, don't ask that. That is not important. No answer. So I would say, I wish DCOP Ramnarayan Samaru well. Advise him to let his fate help him navigate the vicissitudes and exigencies of the TTPS, ill-served by a poor policy framework that's clueless and visionless. And I ask him to remember the injunction. The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Do not be deterred by the fact that the laborers are all acting in their position as laborers. I thank you, Sir Deputy Speaker.
I recognize the Honourable Prime Minister. Say you have in.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. If one thing can be said of my colleague from Naparima, is that he never misses an opportunity to tell us how much TV he's watched and how many magazines he's read. Because representing the UNC and being so spirited in his response, one would not believe, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that the predicament that we are in with respect to the appointment of senior officers in the police service of Trinidad and Tobago was a UNC demand and a UNC creation. And Mr. Deputy Speaker, while I do not wish to veer away from the citations that I read, I simply want to correct the record or let the record reflect against the background of what was said by the gentleman from Naparima. And to do so, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I have to tell you that before the change was made from what existed, these appointments were, as he said, routine in our police service. Appointments of a commissioner of police and deputy commissioner of police were public service routine appointments. It was the UNC, in talking to Prime Minister Manning, who negotiated to get laws passed and came up with this arrangement, which he today describes as archaic and antediluvian, cumbersome and bureaucratic. That is the outcome of what they have put in place. And all I am doing and I am supposed and could do is to follow the law. To hear my colleague come here today and talk about the skeletal CV of Officer Samaru, giving the impression that that has something to do with the government. The CV I read to you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, has nothing to do with the government. I read it as presented to us by law through the office of the President to this House. Mr. Deputy Speaker, he tried to give the impression that there was some competence issue here with respect to this appointment being done before. Let me clarify for the benefit of those who would want to listen. As a notification came just before the House went, a matter of days before the House went on recess, the recess took place, and as you know, Mr. Deputy Speaker, particularly with this matter, one has to be very careful that you follow the law. Because you may recall, as he castigates those who are doing it today, saying that we should not be wasting Parliament's time doing this. I want to remind the member for Naparima that appointments to the position of Deputy Commissioner of Police were being made routinely without coming to the Parliament. It was a few months ago when there were issues of acting in the police service that it was discovered by the legal fraternity that the appointment has to be made in a particular way because it has been enshrined in law in the Constitution. So to come here today and say it is routine and it is this and it is that and jump up and down like an animated toy, it is the law which you asked for and which you put in place. And don't ask me to break the law. I have an oath of office. If you were paying attention, you would have realized that this matter arose because of a discovery that it requires to come to the Parliament, and it's against that background that I said the other day, and I'm glad you agree, that it's a waste of Parliament's time for the House to have to come here, and you are saying you must come in urgency with a flambeau in the night, because it comes in the morning, get it done by the evening, to make a temporary appointment, to make an appointment of an acting position at the top of the police service. I agree with you for once. That's a waste of Parliament's time. But when the period for acting, or the period described, or the purpose for which the appointment was being made, in the case you mentioned of the commissioner going on leave, and Officer Samaru should have been appointed to cover the period. And it never got on the order paper before the Parliament went on recess, and the period expired as a matter of a few days. And you say no, it's a waste of time. Let's agree on that. Do I take it that when I bring the nomination here, when I bring the legislation here, the amendment, that will have the support of our colleagues on the other side, do I take it that that's a commitment you give? Because the record doesn't show that we can think so. But I take you at your word. The amendment will come. And when it comes, we will know exactly what your commitment is. So, Deputy Speaker, the member said he met the officer for 4 minutes. And during that 4 minutes, he made some marvelous conclusions as to what one can expect of the officer. And of course, he said that one can expect that the officer will not arrest anybody on political directions and instructions. That is just another of the unnecessary statements that cast aspersions and destroy the morale of the police service. Who in Trinidad and Tobago could stand before you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and say that somebody was arrested on the instruction of any deputy and any political person in Trinidad and Tobago? Who? Who can say that? But to have said that is simply to cast an aspersion on the police service. To the best of my knowledge, persons in Trinidad and Tobago.
To raise that point.
1 second, 1 second, 1 second. Member, listen, member. Are you contesting the ruling that I made? And just for the records, you will have to check Hansard. Member, I did not stop you. Proceed.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, the member.
There was no distraction when you were in the chair, other than when you were in the booth chatting, unless the speaker rose. So please, proceed.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, the member, I want to stay very close to what I put out here and follow your rulings. But I'm simply responding to what the member said, because I think we are in a debate. So I don't know why he's getting upset. I have introduced nothing new. I'm simply responding, albeit not agreeing with his presentation. The member talks about the fact that we should be doing like Barbados and doing like the UK and doing like the American Senate. Yes, we could do that if the law is amended to permit us to do that. But to make comparisons of what is happening in the American Senate, there's one missing component. And that component is the actual officer comes before the committee, and that officer is spoken to by the committee. Is it that which is being recommended now by the member? Because I could say the police service was going very well when the public service was making the appointments of the same set of people in the police service. It is since the parliament has got involved in this process that it has become the subject of this political animation that we're seeing here and the casting of slurs. And I therefore have no confidence that if the individual officers come before this House, that any improvement will flow because of the behavior of my colleagues. In trying to give the impression that we wasted time, Mr. Deputy Speaker, given what happened with the discovery of the requirement for this action, this government carefully took advice. And that took some time to get proper legal advice as to whether, in fact, the submission from the president could still be used, even if the period which was described in the purpose had elapsed. So I don't know why the member spent his time using the opportunity to castigate the Police Service Commission. I guess a lot can be said about the police service and other commissions. But the bottom line is that in the other side of his mouth, he would be speaking about the need to let the commission be 100% independent and do as they please, and you only receive from the independent commission when the independent commission responds to you. That's what it is. And in talking about what should and shouldn't happen, he ignores the fact that the government is not allowed to do what he is implying to do because they have argued that the government, in particular the minister, must stay as far away as from the process as possible. The minister, as a matter of fact, when the government sought to trigger the process for the nomination of a commissioner of police, the government ended up in the court, and it was argued and ruled on the ground that, okay, well, let's keep the minister away from it, and that was the only amendment the court made. So don't come here today and take the time that's given to you and jump up and down behind the lectern, giving the impression that the member for Naparima is some paragon, when in fact what you're doing is misleading people and seeking to revise and review our history and our circumstance. Nothing that the member has said has improved the debate on whether or not we should choose this officer. Nothing. Except to give the impression that the government has some control over the Police Service Commission to improve it, or that the government had something to do that the government didn't do. This is the system that you asked for that is in place. And Mr. Deputy Speaker, if you don't believe me, this acting and superacting and the perennial acting has been described by a UNC Attorney General as the best arrangement in place when they in government had a commissioner of police acting for God knows how long, and the Attorney General then said is the best arrangement because if he's acting, he will work harder to try and get the job. That was the UNC position told to the country by the Attorney General in that government. So what you come here today and trying to give the impression that you are against these positions? The only thing that came out of your contribution today, Mr. Deputy Speaker, is a commitment that when the amendment comes, as it's going to come very soon, that the opposition will support an amendment to the Constitution in the relevant act to remove this from the Parliament. I beg to move, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Honourable members, for the records, Honourable Prime Minister, the clerk just brought my attention. I beg to move. It was said? Oh, just for the records, could you just?
I beg to move.
Honourable members, the question is, be it resolved that the notification of the President of the nomination by the Police Service Commission of Mr. Ramnarayan Samaru to act in the office of Deputy Commissioner of Police be approved. All in favour say aye. Aye. Any against? I think the ayes have it.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I will, thank you. To the next motion, right? Yes, good. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I beg to move the following motion standing in my name. Whereas Section 1231A of the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago provides that the Police Service Commission shall have the power to appoint persons to hold or act in the office of Commissioner and Deputy Commissioner of Police. And whereas Section 123, subsection 3 of the Constitution provides that the Police Service Commission shall submit to the President a list of the names of the person nominated for appointment to the office of Commissioner or Deputy Commissioner of Police. And whereas Section 123, subsection 4 of the Constitution provides that the President shall issue a notification in respect of each person nominated under subsection 3, and the notification shall be subject to affirmative resolution of the House of Representatives. And whereas the Police Service Commission has submitted to the President the name Mr. Kurt Simon, Superintendent of Police, acting as Assistant Commissioner of Police, as a person nominated to act in the office of the Deputy Commissioner of Police. And whereas the President has on the 16th day of November 2022 issued a notification in respect of the nomination, and whereas it is expedient to approve the notification, be it resolved that the notification of the President of the nomination by the Police Service Commission of Mr. Kurt Simon to act in the office of Deputy Commissioner of Police be approved. Mr. Deputy Speaker, following the requirements of the law and the restrictions as laid down in the Constitution, I want to point out that the qualifications as submitted and reported to the House by me is as presented by the Office of the President, who would have received this pertinent information from the Police Service Commission, the independent body, which is the only authority which has it within its power to appoint persons to act in this position or to discipline persons who operate as Commissioner of Police or Deputy Commissioner of Police. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the matter before us is an officer, Kurt Gerard Simon, who has a record in the police service of professional experience. He worked doing general police duties in the Southern Division, 1990 to 1992. He was a police detective in Southern Division, 1992 to 2005. He was a homicide investigator, Homicide Bureau of Investigations, 2005 to 2015. He worked in the fraud squad from 2018 to 2019, and he worked in the Central Division in a managerial position from 2020 to the present. With respect to his certification, Mr. Deputy Speaker, he obtained a certificate in criminology from the University of the West Indies in St. Augustine in 1996. He also obtained an Associate of Arts in Criminology, Criminal Justice, with high honors in 2014 from the College of Science, Technology, and Applied Arts in Trinidad and Tobago. In 2017, he obtained a Bachelor of Arts in Criminal Justice, Police Science, magna cum laude, of the College of Science and Technology and Applied Arts, Trinidad and Tobago. In 2021, he obtained from the University of the West Indies a research project he did on retired homicide investigations, perceptions of factors impacting the investigations and solving of homicides, a phenomenological study, and he got a Master of Science degree in Criminology and Criminal Justice for his research. Once again, another officer who has been in the police service for quite some time, has widespread experience across the police service, and who has some level of certification. And these attributes have been assessed by the Police Service Commission, and they find it fit and proper to respond under law to this House, through the President, asking this House to approve their recommendation that Officer Simon be allowed to act in this position of Deputy Commissioner of Police. Mr. Deputy Speaker, once again I say to the House, I have no contrary position. I have no reason to have a contrary position at this time, and therefore I beg to move.
One second. Honourable members, I will now propose the question for debate. Be it resolved that the notification of the President of the nomination by the Police Service Commission of Mr. Kurt Simon to act in the office of Deputy Commissioner of Police be approved. I call on Oropuch East.
Thank you
Remember,
very
you have
much.
45 minutes.
How much?
45.
45.
30 minutes. And
How much minutes?
so 30 minutes plus your additional 15, which makes it 45.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker, for the opportunity to join this debate on a very important matter, notably the notification of Her Excellency the President for specific appointment to act in the office of Deputy Commissioner of Police. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I nearly refer to you as Deputy Commissioner. Mr. Deputy Speaker, this is a critical matter that the Parliament is called upon to address in the context of what is taking place in the national community and the crisis that this country faces at this time. We are here to debate the appointment to a very senior office in the establishment of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service by virtue of a particular process. And with your leave, I will read the motion, notwithstanding the contribution of the mover earlier. I will read the motion because I would like to root my presentation specifically in the motion that is before us. It says, and I read, whereas Section 123(1)(a) of the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the Constitution, provides that the Public Service Commission shall have the power to appoint persons to hold or act in the office of Commissioner and Deputy Commissioner of Police. And whereas Section 123(3) of the Constitution provides that the Police Service Commission shall submit to the President a list of the names of the persons nominated for appointment to the office of Commissioner or Deputy Commissioner of Police. And whereas Section 123(4) of the Constitution provides that the President shall issue a notification in respect of each person nominated under subsection 3, and the notification shall be subject to affirmative resolution of the House of Representatives. And whereas the Police Service Commission has submitted to the President the name Mr. Kurt Simon, Superintendent of Police, acting as Assistant Commissioner of Police, as a person nominated to act in the office of Deputy Commissioner of Police, and whereas the President has on the 16th day of November 2022 issued a notification in respect of the nomination, and whereas it is expedient to approve the notification, be it resolved that the notification of the President of the nomination by the Police Service Commission of Mr. Kurt Simon to act in the office of Deputy Commissioner of Police be approved. This is a motion moved by the Prime Minister. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I took the time and effort to read completely the motion into the record because I want to begin with Section 123(1)(a) of the Constitution, which, incidentally, the motion itself begins with one recital. Mr. Deputy Speaker, may I place on record this Section 123(1)(a) says from the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the Police Service Commission shall have the power to appoint persons to hold or act in the office of Commissioner and Deputy Commissioner of Police. I stop there. Mr. Deputy Speaker, this law was effected via constitutional change. Powers of the Police Service Commission, 6th of 2006 and 12th out of 2007. This is a law, a change, a reform that took place in 2006 and 2007. It was done under the Manning administration at that time. So I want to dispel any lingering doubts that anyone would have, I want to dispel those doubts, that this had absolutely nothing to do with what the UNC passed, what the UNC moved, what the UNC approved. It is a PNM law. In 2006-2007, Mr. Deputy Speaker, a few members in this House, including myself, the member for Siparia, the member for Digomartin Northeast, the member for Digomartin Northwest, the member for Aruka Maloney, I can't think of anyone else, but a few of us were on the compound at that time, and there was a major initiative on the part of the Manning administration in collaboration with the United National Congress opposition that saw a bipartisan approach to change in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service and all legislation and law and the Constitution as we deal with the Police Service Commission appointments and so forth. And a team was established that included then Prime Minister Patrick Manning, Opposition Leader Basdev Pandey, the member for Siparia, Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa, the member for Aruka Maloney, Mrs. Camille Robinson Regis, and a couple other members. I am not sure if the member for Digomartin West was on that committee. I am not sure if the Prime Minister at that time had any great regard for his contribution or any regard for any input he would have on that matter. But those persons in the main made up a committee that undertook a considerable amount of work and effort, enormous amount of meetings and consultations and dialogue and so on, that led to this matter coming to the Parliament under the Manning administration. And that I am saying this and reiterating this because I don't want anybody in the public to believe that this law that brought about that change was done by the United National Congress, or the United National Congress wanted it necessarily. It was passed under government of the PNM. Now, I can understand the member for Digomartin West not having such insight because he was never really in the inner circle or a key member or one that the member for San Fernando East at the time had any regard for. So I begin by stating this point. Let me move on now. Section 123(3), quoted in the motion as well, Mr. Deputy Speaker. The Police Service Commission shall submit to the President a list of the names of the persons nominated for appointment to the offices of Commissioner or Deputy Commissioner of Police. So the Police Service Commission has its role spelled out, directed in the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. At 123(4), Section 123(4), the President shall issue a notification in respect of each person nominated under subsection 3, and the notification shall be subject to affirmative resolution of the House of Representatives. All of these matters arose as a result of constitutional change under a PNM administration then led by former Prime Minister Patrick Manning. So here we are today. Mr. Deputy Speaker, we are here to make an appointment, and I want to make a couple introductory remarks on this matter. And Mr. Deputy Commissioner, I've had the opportunity to speak before on previous appointments for the position of acting Commissioner of Police and so on, and the Prime Minister routinely moves these motions, and therefore generally he would be aware of the appointments that were done before by the Parliament pursuant to this process. Mr. Deputy Speaker, one of the challenges, and I'll come to the legal issue in a moment, but one of the challenges in the process, the administrative challenge, is that whereas for previous acting appointments, we have had sight of the Police Service Commission letter, in one case dated the 23rd of June 2022, we have had sight of the context in which an acting appointment is to be made. In the context of Mr. Simon, Mr. Kurt Simon, unless I did not myself receive it, we do not have a contextual letter from the Police Service Commission outlining the nature of this acting appointment. We have a motion. The motion is filed in the Parliament, and we are debating a motion. But could we inquire, for example, we did not have to previously, but we may now have to inquire, how long is Mr. Simon expected to act for? the president issued a notification. It says that the gentleman will act in the office of Deputy Commissioner of Police. How long would he act for? Who is he acting for? When would he cease acting as a Deputy Commissioner of Police? We don't know this. Whereas in the previous appointment, a letter from the Police Service Commission spelled out that the previous person was going to act for Mr. Williams and then thereafter act in a vacant position pursuant to the departure from that position of Mr. Jacob, who is acting as Commissioner of Police. So, in a way, it handicaps a debate that we do not know for how long this gentleman could be acting from today, Friday, December 2nd, a good day, could be acting from today to Monday. We don't know. He could be acting for a few months, for a year. We don't know. We simply don't know. And that undermines the spirit of the legislation itself. That the Parliament is asked to approve an acting appointment, and this has absolutely no disrespect or it casts no aspersions on Mr. Simon himself. We'll get to him specifically in a little while. But we do not know from any correspondence before us how long is he expected to act for. Because it cannot be that he will act for a long, long period of time, some period that we are unaware of in this position. Because that defeats, as I said, the spirit of transparency. We must be told. So in future, I would like to ask the government and so on, and the requisite and responsible department, to provide us as well with the correspondence from the Police Service Commission, which will be sent to Her Excellency the President, copy that to members of Parliament, so we will know the context in which these acting appointments are being done. Now, we are told in our motion, because that is all we have, unless somebody has something else that I don't have, we are told that this gentleman is actually on the verge of playing some type of double role. He's a substantive superintendent of police. That's his substantive position. He's currently acting as assistant commissioner of police, and now he's going to act as deputy commissioner of police. When we had one man acting as commissioner of police, they made a big fuss between 2010 and 2015. Now we have one man acting in two positions. Acting assistant commissioner of police and acting deputy commissioner of police and substantive superintendent of police. So it creates a elongated, convoluted process when you have persons in this type of position and they just act and act and act. And there was a lot of quarrel about the partnership administration had a police commissioner for 5 years acting. Recently, I think just recently, there was a time when there was no commissioner of police, not even an acting one. And money had to be passed to the police by the Minister of Finance. I think he may have been acting as commissioner of police in the circumstances where they had to work out something pursuant to financial regulations to pass money. And that is the stage we reach. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I can't imagine the member for Diego Martin Northeast as a commissioner of police. Perish the thought. Mr. Speaker, let me move on with Mr. Kurt Simon. The notification. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the related matter here is...
Again, please, members.
Yeah. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the related matter here is a statement that is always made in the press and so on, that, let me begin with a blanket statement. If one prime minister had not gone to the President's house and snap out from the hands of a police service commission chairman and a merit list, we would not be here today.
Member, that is not part of the motion today, okay?
Okay.
So move on from that particular point.
Okay. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the government has promised on a previous occasion, and they are signaling, but forever signaling, that there will be a new amendment to deal with this process, which we all agree is a process that we should look at. And the United National Congress under Mrs. Prasad Bisesa cannot agree
to any amendment unless we see it, unless we read it, unless it's laid in the Parliament. It is tabled before us. To ask us to agree to an amendment and you haven't even drafted it, you haven't considered. Could the Prime Minister tell us now whether the Legislative Review Committee or a subcommittee of Cabinet has in its hands any draft amendment to the selection and recruitment process to take away this cumbersome process? Tell us. I suggest you don't, you can't, because there is nothing. So we have to come here all the time to guess how long an acting appointment is for, to approve it. And in one case, we had to do it quickly during the budget debate because the commissioner was leaving the country to England, I believe, for a short while. So it is not enough to come every week with this type of mundane and mantra type of speeches and so on. Tell us, where is the amendment? When can we expect it? You have had 7 years in office and still blaming the UNC, still blaming the member for Siparia, still blaming I don't know who. Still blaming everyone, Mr. Deputy Speaker. So we'd like to know from the Prime Minister today, before he blames us again, when will the amendment come that will seek to deal with this matter? When exactly? Mr. Deputy Speaker, the notion that the police is sacrosanct and insulated and neutral and independent, that is an ideal that we work for in democracies. We work for that ideal. But that is not often the reality. We have had situations in this country, in our recent history, when there have been in the public domain, even judgments of the Privy Council, our highest court, Mr. Deputy Speaker, we have had a situation where, when we reflect, the Privy Council stated in its judgment that there were times when prosecutions were politically tainted by political operatives. So appointing, yes.
Remember, please, all right? We are not here to debate this in this particular motion. So stay away from your Privy Council ruling. All right? I'll prefer you stay away.
Okay, I move on to Mr. Simon. Like the member for Naparim, I also conducted my inquiries. I won't say surveillance, but I conducted inquiries because I was notified before that I would be required to speak on this matter. And Mr. Deputy Speaker, I can tell you that from what we have learned of Mr. Simon, he's not a gentleman that will wire himself with recordings to trap people. He's not a gentleman that will be easily bullied and manhandled by political operatives into taking decisions, into witch hunting, into satisfying the political directorate, because the independence of the police service is enshrined in our Constitution as a fundamental principle. It is fundamental to the rule of law as well. And Mr. Simon must stand tall and stand strong at a time like this. He must. You see, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I have had the opportunity to speak to persons acquainted in some way with the work of Mr. Simon, because Mr. Simon, as his CV will tell us, and we have it in our hands here, he has had a considerable experience. I believe, Mr. Deputy Speaker, if we go from 1990 to 2022, we have had, we have had 30 years, 32 years or so in the service. We have had a gentleman who has worked in the Southern Division and well known to persons in that region, who have been in the Homicide Bureau of Investigations, the Fraud Squad, Central Division, of course, I think until recently, or possibly still there, in the Central Division. And our inquiries suggest that this candidate is not one that will be easily maneuvered, manipulated, bullied into doing anything that is illegal as directed by the political elite in this country. And that is something that we want to signal at this time. The candidate also has qualifications, a Master of Science degree in Criminology and the Criminal Justice System from the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine, Bachelor of Arts in Criminal Justice, Police Science, and a magna cum laude, a Master of Bachelor of Arts, an Associate of Arts in Criminal Justice with high honors, a certificate in criminology. I am happy to welcome Mr. Simon, assuming that he is approved today, to the position that he will act in. Because Mr. Simon, wherever you are coming into this position with the highest murder rate in the history of Trinidad and Tobago, staring you in your face, Mr. Simon. So I want Mr. Simon to be aware. I don't think he could do anything to change that at this time, but he must be aware that all these qualifications he has in criminal justice, criminology, police science, all of these qualifications and skills will be called to the fore to deal with a murder rate that is in excess of 558, and the final month now begin for the year. This is the situation that Mr. Simon will come into, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, as we go along in this CV here, abbreviated as it is, skills and abilities, yes, skeleton CV, resume. Skills include developing software packages for sharing documents, evaluating, implementing policies, research methodology, problem solving, and solution-oriented individual, excellent communication skills, a team player, we are told as well. He has several accomplishments under his belt. He has worked with, amazing, he has worked with the technology. He seems to be a techno-driven cop. He seemed to be someone attuned with the technology that is so relevant at a time like this. And Mr. Simon comes into the job at a time when we are told that there's little use of technology in solving crime, but we are not here to talk about crime.
Deputy Speaker,
so I will move on with Mr. Simon.
One, please.
So again, you made the statement and then you corrected yourself also. So
of course,
please move on from that particular aspect.
I know the gentleman from St. Joseph would be uneasy if we talk about crime. Mr. Deputy, the member for St. Joseph would be uneasy to discuss anything related to murder and crime. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the candidate before us as well is a practitioner in the justice system. He is a very qualified professional. We wanted to check as well his date of birth, because a matter that has been raised time and time again has to do with succession planning. And while as someone in the field of labor and industrial relations, we understand the importance of acting appointments to remuneration packages and termination benefits and so on. Sometimes, we underestimate the importance of these acting appointments because they lead to something else. But Mr. Simon, I believe, was born in 1967. That means that he does have a few years of service that he can provide in this position, assuming that the process is corrected, of course, and that he may even go on to other positions in the TTPS and in the law enforcement community. So the opposition in this regard would have very little objection, would have very little critical analysis to bring to the appointment of Mr. Kurt Gerard Simon to the position, but to indicate as well our displeasure with the process, our displeasure with the amount of information that is provided. Now, we are fortunate in a way, the member for Naparima, myself and others. It is a small society, so people know people, so you can inquire about persons, find out about them. And this is what, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I participated along with the member for Siparia in those parliamentary debates. It was Wednesday, March 15, 2006, in which this constitutional amendment bill was debated. Wednesday, March 15, 2006. We participated in this debate. Mr. Manning led off, of course, then Prime Minister. Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa spoke. Mr. Bastu Pandey, Mrs. Camille Robinson Regis. In fact, strange enough, I don't think the member for Diego Martin West participated in this debate. Mr. Gerald Yetming, myself, and others, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and we were contemplating then as well this issue of bringing transparency to appointments at the highest level of the police service, because what we had before was secret backroom deals by shadowy characters will meet late in the night at unsocial hours and determine who will be commissioner and who will act and so on. And we wanted transparency, disclosure, openness, and a veto power. And maybe as we go along, we can discuss that again, you know, whether this itself is in need of some type of reform. Because it cannot be that this system serves us so well, and you have the highest murder rate in the history of Trinidad and Tobago, but I say no more about that. I don't know, the people don't like to hear that. So, Mr. Deputy Speaker, to remind ourselves of the debate in 2006, when the PNM administration led to this type of change, the PNM administration, of which Diego Martin West was a part of. I don't know if he was fired before or after this debate, but he was a part of the government at the time. And he well knows this debate. He well knows what gave rise to this debate, why we argued for this type of system, which they have completely messed up in the last few years by tinkering with the independent institutions, by interfering with the Police Service Commission, by pulling back merit lists from people's hands and so on. They have interfered with it. Having said that, I will now say...
48.1 and 48.6.
We went through that earlier in your discourse with regards to your last statement again. So again, move on totally out of that, please.
Speaker, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I really do intend to move on, so I thank you.
Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, the gentleman from Oropuch could say what he likes, but the record will show that, yes, it was a PNM government under Patrick Manning, facing a crime wave, very much like we're facing now, had a suite of legislation called crime bills, and he offered those bills to the opposition for their consideration. They received them, and they decided as a requirement for passage of those laws, they wanted the appointment of senior officers in the police service removed from where it was, in the public service, where there was a provision for the Prime Minister to have a veto, meaning that the Prime Minister, his approval had to be had for a public service appointment or recommendation to be effected by the service. And they called it a veto. And they said that for supporting of these legislation that required a special majority, the then opposition will only support those crime bills if the Prime Minister agrees to modification of the system for the appointment of a commissioner of police. I don't know why my colleagues will come here today and try to revise that and say otherwise. Everybody in this country knows that. So why are you coming here today to say it was a PNM law? It was a batch of legislation which required the support of the opposition. It did not have in it any change in the way a commissioner of police or his deputies were appointed. That was a requirement to get the support of the opposition. And in order to get the support of the opposition, the PNM Prime Minister agreed to make these changes in the process for the appointment of a commissioner of police. And I defy any one of them, Mr. Deputy Speaker, to get up here now and say that is not so. A point was raised by the member for Oropuch East about requiring to know what the what the commission said about the length of time that Mr. Simon would act for. I have a document which I referred to when Mr. Samaru was to have acted. I have now been provided with a similar document covering the appointment of Officer Simon, because that point is probably the useful point that the member made, that we should know. I said earlier on that when Officer Samaru was not on the order paper, before the term what he was supposed to act expired, we were put in a situation where we had to get some clearance as to whether, in fact, we could proceed on the same notification. So, for the benefit of members, permit me, Mr. Deputy Speaker, to read the letter that I've just got, which appears to me to be identical, but I just, for correctness and completeness sake, I will read it. The letter is dated the 15th November 2022, and it's addressed to Her Excellency the President. And it says that the heading is, Your Excellency, nomination for acting appointment in the Office of Deputy Commissioner of Police, Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, Ministry of National Security. And that's in bold. And I continue. Police Service Commission in accordance with Section 123, and it makes a series of references to the actual law. And it goes on to say that the Service Commission, Order 2021, has nominated Mr. Kurt Simon, Superintendent of Police, acting as Assistant Commissioner of Police, for acting appointment to the Office of Deputy Commissioner of Police. Her Excellency is informed that by correspondence dated 26 September 2022, the Acting Commissioner of Police informed that Mr. Wendell Williams, Assistant Commissioner of Police, Acting Deputy Commissioner of Police, was to proceed on vacation leave from 9th October 2022 to 29th May 2023, and would retire from the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service with effect from 30th May 2023. Mr. Williams has since proceeded on the aforementioned leave. Accordingly, the Commission has nominated Mr. Kurt Simon for the acting appointment to the Office of Deputy Commissioner of Police and submits the name Kurt Simon to Her Excellency. The following is provided for Her Excellency's information. There are 3 offices of Deputy Commissioner of Police, one of which is filled, and the substantive incumbent has been appointed to act as Commissioner of Police. It should be dated It should be dated 23rd June 2022. To Her Excellency, the nomination of Mr. Ramnarayan Samaru was submitted to the Police Service Commission for the purpose of making an acting appointment as a result of the following circumstances. 1, the absence of Mr. Wendell Williams, whose name was previously approved by the House of Representatives to act as Deputy Commissioner of Police, and who was to proceed on vacation leave from the 29th of June 2022 to 10th July 2022 to travel out of the country and thereafter. And 2, in the vacancy consequent on the acting appointment of the substantive incumbent of the Office of Deputy Commissioner of Police. The Commission has noted that there has been no approval to date from the House of Representatives regarding Mr. Samaru's nomination. The Commission wishes to inform that Mr. Williams returned from his vacation leave on the 11th of July 2022. However, he has since proceeded on vacation leave prior to his retirement as indicated above. In the above circumstances, 2 offices of Deputy Commissioner of Police are currently vacant without incumbents. Accordingly, the nomination for the undermentioned persons are submitted. Mr. Ramnarayan Samaru and Mr. Kurt Simon. Thank you for the consideration of this matter, and please be assured of Your Excellency of my highest regard. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I read that in full, in its convolution, its clarity, and its legal standing, to make the point that the quicker we get rid of this from this House, the better use we will make of Parliament's time. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move.
Honourable members, the question is, be it resolved that the nomination of the President, that the notification of the President of the nomination by the Police Service Commission of Mr. Kurt Simon to act in the office of the Deputy Commissioner of Police be approved. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Any against? I think the ayes have it. Honourable members, at this time, this sitting will be suspended for 15 minutes.